So, in this segment, we're going to be talking about Boris Johnson being caught on camera apparently violating the COVID rules. So, Boris Johnson pictured hosting number 10 Christmas quiz in breach of the COVID laws. I mean, this is wild. I mean, Dominic Cummings said there would be pictures, and man, would you bet against that guy right now about anything he says about Johnson? The only issue is that I don't think, reading this article, I don't think it was Cummings that leaked it. But the question is, why did someone take this picture? And it wasn't just one picture, it's about two that's been uploaded. So let's have a look. Boris Johnson has been accused of personally breaking COVID laws by hosting a Christmas quiz in number 10 last year. The Prime Minister was pictured on screen sitting underneath a portrait of Thatch as he read out questions. A source said many staff huddled by computers conferring on questions, knocking back fizz, wine and beer from a local Tesco Metro. So that definitely does not sound legal. You know, after work party, that definitely doesn't sound legal. Doesn't sound work related because you can't be drinking in the job, especially not when you're working for the damn government. So in one office, the insider said there were 4 teams made up of 6 people. So I think there was a rule of 6, but that was for outdoors. So yeah, that doesn't sound very legal, but I'm no expert. It was December 15th, 3 days before a gathering, now being probed. Oh, sorry, I went to a narrator voice there. And the Prime Minister was flanked by 2 members of his top team, although they weren't drinking. One was wearing a Santa hat and the other one draped in tinsel, so definitely sounds like Christmas vibes there. It doesn't sound like that's work related. On December 15th, 459 people had died from COVID, while another 33,828 were infected. Official guidance also stated you must not have a work Christmas lunch or party where that is the social primarily the social activity and is not otherwise permitted by the rules in your tier. So there's 2 people there. There's one person here. There's a better picture. When we scroll down, we'll find it. The revelation seriously undermined Downing Street's claims last week that no parties had taken place because this is in the same building. This is in number 10. This is in like the library room or something. That banner's really annoying. So that's going to really irritate everyone during this video. Damn the mirror. Johnson said last week, I can tell you guidelines were followed at all times. I've satisfied myself that the guidelines were followed at all times. So are you saying you looked at it and now you're happy that the rules were followed at all times? It's a bit of a weird phrase to use. But after details emerged of the quiz, a source claimed it was just part of the culture and the Prime Minister turned a blind eye. He seemed totally comfortable with gatherings in his own building. The Mirror understands staff were invited to the virtual quiz to raise funds for charity a couple of weeks earlier. One source claimed dozens signed up to take part online, but that at 6:30 on the day, many staff decided to take part from number 10 instead. So instead of doing this virtually, which seemed like it would have been a part of the rules, they want to do it in number 10. And Boris Johnson must have walked around a bit and thinking, hey, shouldn't you have gone home by now? Teams from the Prime Minister's private office, the policy unit, and the press office were among those taking part, so there's no way he didn't know people in the building. They answered questions on subjects ranging from the history of Downing Street to lyrics of Christmas tunes. So you can see this is a bigger picture here. This looks like a government building, and we'll get into why potentially it is. A source said of staff's decision to do the quiz in Downing Street, everyone decided it would be more fun. It would be difficult to take part in such a large virtual quiz from home. I mean, it wouldn't be, and that's what you asked everyone else to do, so that's a ridiculous statement. No work was discussed. It wasn't a business event. Nobody was working that evening. It was purely a social event, so that definitely sounds illegal in my opinion, because it has to be work related. It doesn't sound like it was. Halfway through the quiz, the Prime Minister surprised staff by turning up on screen as quizmaster for one round, lasting between 10 to 15 minutes. Now, possibly these people could have had the background removal thing on, so you couldn't actually see that they were in the same building, but I just don't think that was the case. He asked questions including at her press conference how many COVID tests did Priti Patel say had been conducted. I mean, I think that's a joke because she said the number wrong. I remember covering that. That was crazy. I had a really great thumbnail on that one. It's pretty. What do the numbers mean? That's some of my finest work. The Prime Minister announced he was giving staff a small gift of a bronze lapel pin of the number 10 door, and they were actually handed out that night. So that means there's no way he could have denied he knew staff were in the building because he handed out the pins to people in the building. So it's impossible for him to say that. Sources said the quiz finished at 9 p.m, but staff stayed on for 2 hours or so drinking and chatting. So again, there's no way he can deny this. He turned up as quizmaster. Most stayed in their offices, but a few allegedly moved around the building to mingle with colleagues in a further apparent breach of the rules. A source said nobody ever questioned whether the rules whether this was against the rules, or whether or if we shouldn't be doing this. And these are people who helped create the rules. I just it really does feel like one rule for them and one rule for us. Under the COVID regulations at the time, no person could participate in a gathering indoors or of 2 or more people from other households, apart from in limited circumstances, including gatherings that were reasonably necessary for work. So this is not reasonably necessary for work. It's to do with a Christmas party, and he's got 2 people in this picture that aren't from his household. Look, that person there, that doesn't look like his wife. That's definitely not his wife. So unless we're saying that one there is his wife and this is Big Wilfred, it's not going to fly, is it? He said like these people are there for technical help, but you don't need 2 people to help you with the Zoom call. If you do, you're a bit dim. We go on. Under the regulations at the time, no person could participate in a gathering. A legal expert has suggested number 10 would struggle to claim that a social gathering like a Christmas quiz would fall into that category. I'm saying it's necessary for work, even if the Prime Minister had just broken off from work for a short time to take part. So there's absolutely no way they can claim this is work related, even if he stopped for 10 minutes, hosted around and then went back to work. Some lawyers have suggested that they could somehow be exempt because it's a Crown property, but I don't think that will fly with the public if they go with that defence. That's a very bad look. Last week, the Met Police said it would not investigate allegations of Downing Street festive events at this time, and has continued to say it won't do it. Scotland Yard said this was due to an absence of evidence. I mean, we've got a goddamn picture here. So we've got a picture here of him being in a not work-related setting. The only question is the date, but the Mirror would have to check that, because otherwise they'll get sued. That's a big libel claim right there. So Labour's shadow chancellor of the Duchy, Rayner, said while the rules said people shouldn't have Christmas parties at work and Britons across the country were doing the right thing, Johnson was instead happy to preside over a culture of disregard for the rules at the heart of government. So pretty stinging stuff from Rayner, but overall, I don't know if people will care that much because it's from a year ago, but I think if they stop people having Christmas parties this year, I think this will cut a bit more. Johnson's credibility has been pushed to the brink by public fury over Mirror revelations about rule-busting government parties. He finally instructed Cabinet Secretary Simon Case to look into to investigate it, but I don't, apparently he might have even been there, so he's not going to investigate himself, is he? A number 10 spokesperson said this was a virtual quiz. Downing Street staff were often required to be in the office to work on the pandemic response, so those who were in the office for work may have attended virtually from their desks. But that wasn't the rules though, was it? You couldn't attend virtually from your desk. That doesn't make sense, because they're there for non-work related reasons then. So I don't think, in my opinion, that doesn't make sense, does it? You can't claim they were doing it virtually from their desks and claim that was part of the rules when other people couldn't do that. I could have sat at a different table to my relatives and said, I took part virtually from another table. The Prime Minister briefly took part virtually in a quiz to thank staff for their hard work throughout the year. So that means he had to have known about it. He might not have known they were in the building, which would be a massive issue if you don't know people in your house. He stays in number 10, but 11, but still. By the way, that curtain thing there, that's not like a covering a security camera. That's just a legit curtain. That's always there. People have shown other pictures. Theresa Coffey's been dragged into another thing where DWP staff drank into the night in Theresa Coffey's private office during lockdown. So that's the Treasury civil servants and workers having parties. And now you've got DWP also being involved. The BBC even covering this with no quotation marks for the most part, which is wild. Boris Johnson took part in a Christmas quiz, sitting between 2 colleagues in number 10 last year, while indoor household mixing was banned in London. There's the 2 colleagues. Downing Street said the Prime Minister briefly took part virtually to thank staff, but he was there for 15 minutes. That's not very brief. If you're saying, thank you for taking part, bye. That's all he had to do. Starmer said he thought Johnson had breached the rules at this time. It comes after the government launched an investigation into the 3 allegations. The government investigating itself, sure they're going to come up with a lot of stuff. In the photo, Johnson is sitting in number 10 library between a colleague wearing a tinsel scarf, another wearing an apparent Santa hat, or if you're that Tom Howard guy, a Father Christmas hat, which that guy's bizarre. A source told the Sunday Mirror many staff were huddled by computers, conferring on questions, drinking alcohol, and in one office there were 4 teams of 6 people. Again, that doesn't sound right, does it? It doesn't sound very socially distanced. And Allegra Stratton said there was a Christmas party. Oh no, there was a business meeting, and it wasn't socially distanced. So, take that for what you will. A Downing Street source told the BBC the two people in the picture with Johnson were members of his team who had come in to help with technology. I mean, do you really need two people to help you sort out a camera for your laptop and your mic? I don't think so. That sounds like rubbish. And why is Maiji wearing tinsel then if they've just come in to help with tech? You know, surely it's this person here, I think it's a lady here, who's got the laptop out. What's he doing? Nothing. You know, has he got a microphone there? No. So again, that's a load of rubbish. They were here to help the technical. You can maybe argue this person on the right is, but not the one on the left. That's crazy. Like, you know, come up with better lies, please. See. London was under a Tier 2 restriction at the time, which banned mixing of households indoors. Official guidance said, although there are exemptions for work purposes, you must not have a Christmas lunch or party that is primarily that is a primarily social activity, which we know that was the case according to this source at least. Asked whether he thought the Prime Minister was in breach of the COVID rules, Starmer told Andrew Marr it looks like he was. He must have known that other groups were in other rooms in his own building, he said. And this is where they can really claim the incompetency angle. If Johnson didn't know, how is he not aware of people in his building? You know, how come these people didn't go home? Surely he said bye to them. He has damaged his authority. He's now so weak. His party is so divided. He can't deliver the leadership the country needs. Not bad attack lines. It's better than we have a Prime Minister who's socially distanced from the truth. He's the worst possible leader at the worst possible time. I'd say World War II is probably the worst possible time, but, you know, it's up to Big Man there. Appearing on the same programme, Nadeem Zahawi said, there has been hype about press stories on parties and people can make their own minds up. Well, I'm going to make my own mind up. Your boy broke the rules. That's my opinion, but it definitely looks like he broke the rules. That's my opinion. So, speaking to Sky News earlier, he said Mr. Johnson had been on a virtual call respecting the lockdown rules. I mean, he hasn't, though, because there's two people next to him. Many people would have a similar Zoom quiz nights around the country. I mean, they didn't have 6 man in groups in one office room, did they, though? So clearly that's not the case. You know, similar being the operative word there. You know, what's the difference between 6 people being, or what's it, 4 teams of 6 being in one room versus, I know, a group of 3 being in a room? But you couldn't mix with people outside your household anyway, so they just don't make any sense, do they, when you think about it? You couldn't mix with people outside your household if you could work from home, so it doesn't make sense. Responding, and you're meant to keep socially distanced from people, so, you know, if they're all huddled around a laptop, that's not 2 meters apart. That's going to be very difficult to do. So the more you think about it, the more stupid this story is. Responding to the picture of the quiz, Steve Baker said he wanted Johnson to rescue his position, adding that the government could not go on being constantly mired in headlines of this kind. I mean, true that. Basic analysis from a B-tier politician. Meanwhile, the Department for Work and Pensions confirmed a core team of staff drank alcohol and ate takeaways on a number of occasions whilst working late in the office while COVID restrictions were in place. So I don't care how late they worked, they broke the rules. So why didn't you call feds? That's what we were told to do by Priti Patel. You told us to call the feds. So why didn't you call them? So yeah, there could be a COVID rule rebellion, but I think Labour votes will get them over the edge for any issues. Boris Johnson's Christmas quiz wasn't a party as there was no alcohol. I mean, I didn't realise you had to have alcohol for it to be a party, even though the rules are about gatherings. I mean, that means all those people in the northeast of England or northwest of England could have had Eid parties because technically there's no alcohol, so there's not a party. Got some more. Boris Johnson broke COVID rules at a restaurant, so the rules at the time were don't leave the table without a mask, don't mix with other people, leave the restaurant by 10 p.m. He walked about without mask, mixed with diners at their tables, left the restaurant at 10:25. So yeah, he's been accused of breaking other COVID rules, and you can imagine he's the type of guy who would definitely do that. There was a tweet I had, but I don't have it up on the screen, about Priti Patel throwing her name into the hat for leadership. So the only thing I've got to say to that is please, Boris, don't go. Please. But now we go to Boris Johnson's senior advisor about dealing with the situation on the rules.
Screw the rules, I have money.
Let's hear that again.
Screw the rules, I have money.
Because that is generally how the Tories seem to think. Screw the rules, I have money, and I'm better than you. So, you know, we can see they blatantly, screw the rules. So, whoops. Didn't realise there was autoplay on. It's a bit embarrassing. But, what more can you say apart from they've got pictures now? So, going back to kind of talking about the pictures. Let's see. Where's the one I wanted to talk about? There's one that had the 3 clocks in view. So, not this one. So if you look at these clocks here, I think this is a government building because was the time in the UK. This is the time in Tokyo, and this would have been the time in New York, I assume. So it's some sort of building where they monitor time. Maybe I don't know what specific room that would be in the Downing Street, but you can see, those two people aren't part of his household because his household, Big Wilfred, his son, and his wife Carrie, like they would have been his bubble. I think they might have had a nanny, but yeah, unless they had two nannies, that doesn't make any sense. But incredibly frustrating for a lot of people. We all missed many months of our relatives and friends' lives because of these rules, which were rightfully put in place. But clearly, some people didn't follow them. Some animals are more equal than others, and these ones are clearly more equal than us because you can see they blatantly broke the rules. This picture even, right? I think that is someone's head there, which they blurred out. Right, so this guy definitely wasn't in shock because it doesn't look like they were 2 meters apart from the person who took the picture. But the only other questions I have is who would take this picture and why, and also who has leaked this to the press? Because normally you would assume with this stuff it's Dominic Cummings, but this person who has done the interview genuinely sounds like a person who has remorse about what they've done. But again, can Tories feel remorse? I don't know. But yeah, it's all being leaked to the same person at the Mirror, by the looks of it. Boris Johnson accused of personally breaking the rules, Pippa. So she's done great covering the stuff. But further to that, someone is leaking her this information. The question is why? Why the Mirror as well? Because there are rumours that the Telegraph and the Mail will have a list of names, but they won't publish them because potentially their journalists are incriminated in that list of names. Which is a bit grim if you're one of those journalists, to be honest, and the last thing you want is your own bosses kind of hanging you out to dry. But yeah, I don't know what more to say apart from Boris Johnson's advisor clearly telling him to screw the rules.
Screw the rules, I have money.
Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.